Sixth graders, we're going to cover a lesson on models for decimals and dividing decimals. Models for division. When you're modeling division, the models all pretty much work the same way. You always have a starting amount. And then you divide that by a group size. That's the divisor. That's called the divisor, the group size. And then you'll end up with a number of groups. If you're taking 8, we have 8 of something, and you divide it by 2. That means you would take and group these into groups of 2. And how many groups do you end up with?
4.
4, right. That's a model for division. All right? Starting with 8, divide it by 2, and you end up with 4 groups. Okay? Now, if you're using decimals, then the starting amount is not a whole number, but it's a decimal amount. It's a decimal number. Let's take the one in your book, number 1. Number 1 has 2 hundredths blocks, and then it gives you a number at the top. What number is given as the starting amount, Roy? Come on, Roy.
Starting amount?
Yeah.
100. For the box?
No, the number at the top next to number 1. What's our starting amount?
1.335 divided by 45.
Okay, 1 and
1.35 hundredths.
right, 1 and 35 hundredths. So that tells us that each one of these is worth 1. All right, this is 1 whole. Okay, 1 and 35 hundredths means one of these wholes and 35 out of 100 of these. So first, you should color one of these blocks to show that this is 1. So all of this one, all of this one, and 35 of this one. So this row, or the column, represents 10, 20, 35. So color that in. Each of these is 10. Doesn't have to, I mean, it should show it. Okay, pretty close. Nope. Then, what size groups are we going to make? Groups of how big? Brett?
45.
Of 45?
No. 45 hundredths.
Of 45 hundredths. So this is 1 and 35 hundredths divided by 45 hundredths. Right? Now, what you would do is show 45 hundredths. One, 2, 3, 4 and a half is 45 hundredths, right? 45 hundredths, so draw that out. That's the size of the groups we're making. we're gonna make groups of 45 hundredths. Then, if you are making groups of 45 hundredths, it's like taking away 45 hundredths each time. So, it's taking away all of these, right?
Yeah.
So let's cross off 35 and 10 more. So that's one group. Sometimes, if I circle that, that's another way of showing a group. One group. So circle 45 hundredths. And then circle another 45 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That makes another group. How many groups would there be? 3 groups, right? The remaining makes another group. By circling these groups, we are dividing the whole amount into piles, into groups. So how many groups are there? 3. 3 groups. We've just modeled that problem using blocks and grouping them. Okay. Let's try another one. Number 2. 1 8/10 divided by 6/10. 1 whole and 8/10. So all of this 1 8/10. That would be all of this.
What number is this
From here over is 8/10. Number 2. 1 whole and 8/10. So all of this. That's 1 8/10, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we're dividing that by 6/10. That's the size of the group that we're making.
Where's the 8/10?
This is 8/10 because it's 8 out of 10 rows, or it's 80 out of 100 total. 8/10. This is 1 whole. And we're going to divide it into 6/10. So you're going to circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's 6 out of 8. So that's one group. And then there is another 2/10 here, which means we would need 4 more tenths over here. So this is another group. 2/10 plus 4/10 is 6/10. And the last group, if we got 4 of these, that means there's 6 left. So again, we made how many groups? 1, 2, 3. 3 groups. Okay? We were able to start with 1 whole and 8/10 and divide, take away 6/10, 6/10, 6/10, and make 3 groups. Okay? Now, I think it's easiest on your model sheet to circle the amounts rather than shading them in.
Oh, you could have drawn.
By circling them, you are putting them into a group. So circle 6/10 or 60 hundredths if you're on the hundredths pile, hundredths group. Okay? Let's skip down to the next section. It says, Kara harvested 15.4 pounds of blueberries. If she stores the blueberries in containers that hold 1.4 pounds, how many containers will she need? So our starting amount is what number? What's our starting amount? This is number 6 on your sheet. Roy?
15.4
15.4 what?
pounds.
Pounds. This is the label for pounds. Starting with 15.4 pounds and putting them into containers of what?
1.4.
What is it?
1.4 pounds.
1.4 pounds. The containers hold 1.4 pounds. So how many groups? That's what we're finding when we divide. How many groups can you make? Now, what operation is this? What is it? What would we do? Is this adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing?
Dividing.
This is dividing. It's taking a starting amount and dividing it by, or putting it into groups of 1.4. Okay? So, let's divide this out. 15.4 divided by 1.4. Can we do that?
No.
What do we have to do? Emily?
Make it like 1.4 whole number.
Good. We have to move the decimal point over and make it what? What number, Daria? 14. Then we have to move the decimal point over in the dividend in the amount we're starting with. So our new problem is 14 into 154. Okay? So go ahead and do that. Divide that out. How many containers can she fill? 11. Yep. 11 containers. Right. Okay. Let's look at the models at the bottom. These are the types you'll have to do on the test. Okay? Number 8 at the bottom. How much are you starting with? 15 what? There are 3 smaller groups, but how many blocks are in each of the small ones? How many blocks? How many blocks would be in this total? Come on, people. Max?
50 and then a carton.
50. And then there's 50 and 50. What do these represent? What does 1 represent? What does 1 represent? Daria.
50.
No, 1 little one.
50. Oh, 1.
1 out of
50.
1 out of 50,
No.
Okay. or 1 out of
150.
1 out of 150. These are 100ths. So it's actually 1 out of 100. When we're modeling numbers, we use them in groups of 10. 1, 10, or 100. These are little hundredths squares. So one of these is 1 out of 100, or so think of these as being 2 together and being 1 out of 100 this way. So the starting amount is 1.5. 1.5. If you put 2 of these together, you'd have 1 whole and then another half. 1.5. Okay? Now, how many groups of 50 can you make? Or what are they divided into?
I have a question. What are we doing?
We're doing the worksheet. Okay, and we're doing models for division. Okay? So on your test, there'll be a couple of questions about modeling division, where they give you a starting amount, and then they give you, they ask you to try to figure out the group size and how many groups there are. Okay? So these are grouped by what? 50 out of 100 though. 50 hundredths. Or what's the decimal form of 50 hundredths? What's the decimal form of 50 hundredths? Abby? Not 5 hundredths, 50 hundredths, or 5 tenths, or as a decimal, 0.5, right, 0.5. That's what the answer is in the multiple choice question. What problem is being modeled here? If this is the starting amount, and this is the size of the group, then which one of those is the model? A, B, C, or D? Jen? D. Yep. 1.5 divided by 0.5. And there's 3. Okay? How about the next one? What is the starting amount? If you put all of those blocks together, there are 2 tenths and 3 more. So what number is this? 0.23. And there's another group of 0.23. So what is the starting amount? Starting amount is both together. How much is the starting starting amount? Noah?
46.
Yeah, the two amounts add together, 0.46. And it's being divided into groups of what size? How big are the groups? Megan?
0.2.
Yep, 0.23 in each one, right? So the problem being represented is 0.46 divided by 0.23. And how many groups are there? Carson? 2, right. So that's the model. That's how that model works. Okay? So those are some notes about modeling division. And you should review this video when you're doing the pre-test in order to be able to answer those questions and get ready for the test.
Bye, guys.